Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Temple of the Living God. Make a special hello to the people that are joining us on social media. First song we're going to do today is a wonderful song, and this kind of goes out to all of the people that are thinking about joining the church, because we've got the program, the orientation today after church. So I just want to welcome anyone that's thinking about joining, and of course it's for everyone here that is a member. Also, it's called Colors of Praise. Vibrant colors fill this place. See the warmth on every face. Look around the rainbow of people who come to praise. Single mother dressed in red stands next to a World War vet. And up in front are the children, brown, black, and white. Oh, the candle glows and the spirit flows. The word is brought to life. We come together today, put every difference away, to share our colors of praise. We blend our voices with love, reach out to our God above. We shout with colors of praise, colors of praise. We each walk a different path, look to find the love that lasts. Here to paint a picture of gladness and joy in God. Some in t-shirts, some wear ties, many who have changed their life. From the streets we have come to make this place our home. Oh, the candle glows and the spirit flows. The word is brought to life. We come together today, put every difference away, to share our colors of praise. We blend our voices with love, reach out to one God above. We shout with colors of praise, colors of praise. Blue, green, white, gold, pink, red, red glow, purpleness, cool black, love lasts everywhere. God flows like a rainbow, our hearts know as the joy grows, and all we show are the colors of life, the colors of godliness. Oh, the candle glows and our spirit flows, the world is brought to life. We come together today, put every difference away, to share our colors of praise. We blend our voices with love, reach out to our God above. We shout with colors of praise. We come together today, put every difference away, to share our colors of praise. We blend our voices with love, reach out with one God above. We shout with colors of praise, colors of praise.
Right.
I would like to thank all of those who are joining us now on social media. Today we have with us Reverend LeRoy Zemke as our speaker, and he's going to be talking on committing to our spiritual journey. I'd like to share with you an inspirational reading, which is from a book called Heart and Soul by Daphne Rose Kingma. The journey of the soul is not all joy, nor is it always consummated in the light. For in this life there is a choosing at every moment of what our soul's destination shall be. Just as in a dance, one may move in any direction, forward, sideways, fly beautifully elevated, or be bowed down toward the earth. So in life do we also constantly, through every infinitesimal increment of our behavior, choose a direction, the path our souls will take. And so it is. And now we have the pleasure of listening to music, and we have a surprise person joining a group.
In case you can't see, Reverend Karmene is here with us today. And the talk title is Spiritual Journey, and Reverend Karmene just happened to write lyrics to the song Sentimental Journey, only called Spiritual Journey. So we're going to feature that song today to set up Reverend Zemke's talk.
Gonna take a spiritual journey, gonna grace my heart with peace, gonna make a spiritual journey home. Got my truth, I got my confirmation, got my proof I won't be bored. Like a child with complete inspiration, long to feel that at our core. Heaven, that's the state we live in. Heaven, we're grateful to forgive times 7, counting every blessing on our way we receive each day. Always knew my heart was always yearning to feel the love beyond compare. Gonna take a spiritual journey home. That's the state we live in. Heaven, we're grateful to forgive times 7, counting every blessing on our way we receive each day. Always knew my heart was always yearning to feel the love beyond compare. Gonna take a spiritual journey home. Gonna take a spiritual journey home.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear our team do their beautiful music. Thank you again. And Karmene, thank you. Yes, welcome. And another welcome, of course, to everyone who is joining us on social media. I want to read today a very short story called Two Brothers. It's taken from the book A Second Helping of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Two brothers worked together on the family farm. One was married and had a very large family. The other was single. At the day's end, the brothers shared everything equally, produce and profit. Then one day the single brother said to himself, quote, "It's not right that we should share equally the produce and the profit. I'm alone, and my needs are simple." So each night he took a sack of grain from his bin and crept across the field between their houses and dumped it into his brother's bin. Meanwhile, the married brother said to himself, quote, "It's not right that we should share the produce and the profits equally after all. I am married, and I have my wife and children to look after me in the years to come. My brother has no one, and no one to take care of his future," unquote. So each night, he took a grain from his bin, carried it across the field, and dumped it into his brother's bin. Both men were puzzled for years because their supply of grain never dwindled. Then one dark night, the two brothers bumped into each other. Slowly, it dawned on them what was happening. They dropped their sacks and embraced one another. The lesson of learning how to share who we are and what we have always unfolds as we are ready to learn that lesson. I want to talk today about committing to our spiritual journey, but in the talking of it, I'm going to talk more today about my own personal life, much more than I normally do in a public service. And I ask your indulgence in it because I think it's germane to the idea of commitment to something that is deep for each and every one of us. The work of our soul, as was indicated earlier by April, is something that goes on from a level that is beyond the measurement of our intellect. It is beyond flesh and blood, form and substance. It is of the essence of who we are. The word commitment means many things, but particularly it is an intention to stay focused to accomplish a goal. And the goal can be physical, emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual, or all of the above. And it really, if it works well, comes from the deepest part of us. Now, all of us know that we've made short-term commitments. We're going to do this for a particular period of time or that for a particular period of time, and it lasts for the length of time. But sometimes our commitment is short-term, doesn't last as long as we think it will. What I want to talk about is my own commitment, both as it related to me physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, as it still continues in my life. As I've shared with our congregation before, I grew up on a farm in northern Wisconsin with my family, my parents, my brother and sister. My father had a cattle farm, which were there to feed and tend to every single day of the week, no exceptions. There were also horses, chickens, pigs, and other fowl. All had to be cared for, fed every day. And for those of you that know about farm life, you know that that's part of it if you have animals or fowl. But even if you don't, there's always these chores that have to go on for a long time until the chore is finished, and then there's others to replace. Now, that's not true only of farm life, but in my instance, that's where some of the plans of my life took shape. Since I was the oldest son, I had to learn how to drive the machinery, the trucks, the tractors, how to operate the equipment. And my father was a wonderful teacher. I also did my share of the farm chores. And that was while I was in graded school. We did them before school and after school when I was in high school until I left high school to go to college. School was part of my life then, as it is for all of us. And lessons were part of the daily routine, always, always part of a routine. So this whole idea of commitment shaped itself very early in my life. We had time to play, yes. We had time to visit and do social things. But even if we went to visit family 50 to 100 miles away, we had to get back the same day to finish the chores of the day. There was no hired man or hired company to come in and step in and do the chores. And what that taught me in the idea of commitment was that if something is going to work in your life, you have to stay focused on it. I remember saying to my father, "Can we just have one day off? Can we just have the weekend off?" And my dad would say yes, but he said the chores still need to be done. They still have to be done. And he said I would appreciate the help. So it made me look very deeply at what I was involved with. Now, I will tell you, honestly, that partly as a result of that training and that discipline, I told my father early on in my teenage years that I was not going to do farm work. I was not going to dedicate my life to the farm. It wasn't something he wanted to hear, but it was something that I knew very clearly was not my work to do. Now, I want to step out of that part of my talk to speak about the meeting of my first spiritual teacher, who was a remarkable woman, who was a spiritual healer. She was a nurse, a registered nurse, and she had a healing practice in the state of Wisconsin. And in those years, a man or woman that practiced healing, unless they were medical people, didn't practice other than in a medical setting. But she practiced in her home. She and her husband had a very small home in a small town about 50 miles away. And through a set of circumstances that I'm not going to get into at this moment, I got to meet her. She was an amazing lady, then a woman in her 60s, profoundly spiritual, a wonderful sense of humor, and she was dedicated to serving people. I am not exaggerating when I tell you this. Men and women and children would come to her home 4 to 5 days a week, starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they line up on the street waiting for their turn to be prayed over and to be blessed by her healing touch. In one day, she would serve as many as 150 people every single day. And that went on for years and years and years. And she made hospital calls. She and her husband would drive out into the country where they lived, if someone could not come to them but called for prayer. She was an amazing, amazing woman. My father needed physical help at that time, and so he sought out her help and received it. But she became the teacher, awakening me to the spiritual realm that would ultimately become a part of my own life. I saw deep purpose in her, and we had wonderful, wonderful conversations. I was fortunate to borrow every single book in her library, probably 400 or 500 books, and I would read them all. And then, as time provided opportunity to come together, we would discuss these books and the philosophy contained in them. And so my discipline became very clear. When I came to the point of going to college, my time of study with her ended because I obviously was going to be committed to my college life, and I did that. But I also had read about the writings and the work of a man, Paramahansa Yogananda. How many of you have heard of him? If you haven't ever read Autobiography of a Yogi, which is about his early life and his trip here to America to establish the Self-Realization Fellowship in Los Angeles, California, I would strongly recommend the reading of the book. It's an impressive work, and he lived an impressive life. He taught a system of yoga called Kriya and initiated thousands and thousands of disciples into that work across his lifetime. The organization still exists in California, but there are branches of it all over the United States and also in Europe. The purpose of it was to bring the message of the East, the Hindu teachings that he had been raised with as a boy, as a child, and to bring them here to the country of America. And he did. His story is quite amazing. His philosophy, though, was one which had a deep, deep impression on me. And as I read the book, I realized that if I was going to awaken to the teaching that he had, I would have to practice some of the same disciplines that he had. And so my commitment grew, and I began to practice it. Let me tell you, meditation for me as a teenage boy, when I first got involved with this, was not easy. I had a full life as a teenager, as most of us do, and my day wasn't really over until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. But he indicated that you had to have a time for prayer and a time for meditation. Well, I'd sit at my desk in my room, fold my hands, say my prayer. 2 hours later, I'd wake up with my chin on my chest, realizing that I hadn't meditated at all, had gone to sleep. Now, for a little while, I thought, well, I was really meditating. But, I soon realized the difference. And I read over his writings, and I read other writings at the same time, and I realized that meditation was something you committed to if it was going to work when your body was relaxed, and not at the end of the physical day, when all the work of the day was heavy upon your body, and your body was saying sleep. But I learned through that process to change my meditation time to early in the day, and then I stayed awake. And I continued to do that even at this day. I meditate in the morning, and it is a wonderful, wonderful practice that I've included in my life. Now, why do I talk about Yogananda? Yogananda was an Eastern teacher and settled into America and lived out his life here. But he had a commitment to the spiritual life, which isn't better than, greater than any other teacher that I know. But it was very real and very solid. And I will tell you, as a body of people, that if you really want to deepen your spiritual life, you have to commit to it. I don't know what it will take for you, how it will unfold for you, but I know that if you do commit to it, it will be absolutely the most profound experience of who and what you are, because you become aware of the spirit that motivates you. I met one of his very famous disciples, and some of you may know of him, Roy Eugene Davis, who lived in Lakemount, Georgia. He passed to the greater world several years ago, but his organization continues. And he had a worldwide ministry offering his own teaching and the teaching of Yogananda. Now, I do not follow their teachings specifically in this ministry. We have our own ministry, which has been created many years ago when the church became an independent organization in the state of Florida. But what I am wanting to communicate today is that commitment, whatever your commitment may be to your spiritual journey, can be in many different directions. It doesn't have to be necessarily to a church. There are many ways to serve to the earth itself. And now in our world, in our time, we know of thousands, really many thousands of organizations that are dedicating to saving the planet, the earth, the animal kingdom, and the other kingdoms that live upon the earth as well. And then, of course, the human family, wherever the human family may be, all over the earth. We are even committed now to exploring outer space, not only traveling to outer space, but to making it a place for us to travel to ultimately in due course that is safe and enables us to understand the universe in which we live. I believe that everything that is about serving the collective, the larger purpose of life itself, has value. But you and I have to find what serves us individually. It can't be because LeRoy Zemke says you need to do this. It has to be because you see the value and you are willing to do it. I can invite you to meditation or prayer or the practicing of yoga, for example. But if you can't connect to it or don't feel a resonance to it, you won't do it. Doesn't matter how many people tell you you need to do it. It's about giving yourself permission to be in touch with who you are. In closing, I want to say two things. The inspiration that I received from my first teacher remains with me to this day. When I close my eyes, I can see her face, a wonderful, wonderful woman who had a magnificent healing touch, an outstanding sense of humor, and a loving heart. And she welcomed every man, every woman, and every child into her heart and into her home, where it was safe to come to receive the healing touch. And people would walk out with cancers in remission, with toxic conditions in the blood cured, even after 1 or 2 treatments. She would visit hospitals, come to the home, and did that throughout her lifetime. Throughout her lifetime. That inspiration has touched me and has helped me to stay focused in the ministry here in St. Petersburg and when I travel to other parts of the world, other parts of the country. Many people have asked me why I want to travel during the pandemic. The need is still there. People still need help. They still need counsel. They still need guidance. They still need teaching. The pandemic has not changed our spiritual needs, if not, has made us more aware of what they are and how to be supportive of them as much as we can. And so I will continue to travel as long as God gives me the strength and the opportunity to do so. The other thing is that I want all of you today to think about what it is that you have committed to personally in your life that really puts you in the direction of your spiritual goals, your spiritual needs, your spiritual issues. I don't need to know what they are because they're between you and the source of all life. But whatever they are, I would like to invite you to commit to them fully so that your life becomes the living testimony of that work. Now, it doesn't mean you have to become famous, that you have to become a singer or a dancer or a political leader. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that if your life is to be on point, on purpose, you and I have to commit to it and be willing to do the work that it requires. And the question is often asked, as I mentioned it a little bit earlier, well, do you get a weekend off? Of course. How many of you have had a pet or have a pet? Look at the hands. If you want to go on vacation, you either make room to take the pet with you or you make preparation to have someone come in and pet your pet. You know what that means. It's about committing to the promise you made to this little being that you're going to be available to her or to him or to it until it's time to continue the journey is over. It's the same commitment we make to each other when we say, in an intimate sense, I love you. I want to be part of your life. I want to be your friend. I want to be your partner. I want to be the man or the woman in your life that you can share who you are with. Because that's a commitment too. That's a spiritual commitment you and I make. May all of our spiritual commitments be joyous. May they be fulfilling, and may they be filled with the light and love of God. God bless. And now, I'm going to invite you to share in the blessing of the tithes and offerings. And then our musicians are going to close our service with their wonderful, wonderful music. Thank you for your music today. Good to see you back, Lonnie. Welcome. Let us pray. Infinite and radiant source of all life, we give thanks for your gifts, always abundant in our lives, unfolding in the moment. May we be ever open to the ceaseless flow of your grace and goodness, here and always, wherever we are. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for serving.
And this is a new song of the month for March. It's called The Trees of the Field. It's also known as You Shall Go Out with Joy. You shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will rejoice before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. And the trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands. While you go out with joy, yeah. We shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will rejoice before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. And all the trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands. The trees of the fields will clap their hands. While you go out with joy. All right. You shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills
weekend, everybody.
Go out with joy.